A dramatic 49ers changing of the guard happening right in front of our eyes. Just soak in this photo for a bit. On the left, Deebo Samuel. Right in the middle, Brandon Aiyuk. On the right, Jauan Jennings. Now, funny enough, the one in the middle, Brandon Aiyuk, is still technically part of the 49ers, but technically is the operative word there. Jauan Jennings has signed with the Minnesota Vikings a deal worth $8 million base salary, up to $13 million in incentives. So he's officially gone. Deebo Samuel is actually a free agent right now, and Brandon Aiyuk is not going to be with the 49ers likely beyond this season. Although if he just continues to go MIA, maybe they keep him on the team and just don't pay him. But for all intents and purposes, these three guys finished with their 49ers careers, unless you see Jauan Jennings and Deebo Samuel return at some point for retirement. But this era of 49ers football is all but over. San Francisco has welcomed Dejon Stribling to the building. That is their rookie, number 33 overall pick out of Ole Miss. And Mike Evans is working out hard. And you know, remember when Deebo Samuel was a rookie in 2019 and the 49ers traded for Emmanuel Sanders, and it was the veteran Emmanuel Sanders shepherding Deebo Samuel along? Well, look at Mike Evans now. Look at Christian Kirk now. Those are the Emmanuel Sanders-like players for the 49ers, and they're going to be working with the younger receivers. Not only Dejon Stribling, but also Ricky Pearsall, Jordan Watkins, Jacob Cowing, all of those guys. Mike just sent me a nice picture of Watkins and Mike Evans. I want to show you a video, though, first, of Mike Evans working out. Take a look at this. Gotta get this.
At the time, boy! At the time, boy! Let's get off.
49ers have themselves an X-wide receiver. You could see in that video those long strides from Mike Evans. He's never been a burner, but he has been able to get downfield. And then, of course, he uses his skills, his ball skills and his height, his wingspan, which is prodigious. The guy is a future Hall of Famer, and San Francisco is fired up to have him. Just take a listen to Klay Kubiak when he spoke of how the 49ers staff learned that they had acquired Mike Evans in March.
Find out. Same way you guys did. Showed up on ESPN on that first day of free agency. We were ecstatic and fired up. Obviously, we had a plan. We evaluated him and had intentions to want to sign him, and we talked about it. And so, but just to get it done was incredible. How do we want to use him? I mean, he's a Hall of Fame wide receiver. You know, he's a one-on-one matchup that you can take advantage of when he's on the field, and he's got one-on-one coverage. You want to get the ball to Mike. You feel like he's going to win. He's about as competitive as they come. He's a guy who's going to win his matchups, and it's just really cool to have that alpha type of player out on the field at that position for us again. And you know, we're going to use him the way he's been used his whole career, and hopefully get a few more things out of him too along the way as we get him in our program.
So the 49ers will have Evans at the X receiver position. You talked, Klay Kubiak talked with some specificity about how they're going to use him, obviously in one-on-one situations. I think he's going to be a massive boon for the run game, just as a blocker and also somebody who has that gravity to attract the safety over to his side of the field. Greg Cosell and I talked about that in length the other day. You can go ahead and check out that video, and here's the photo that Mike just sent me. That is Evans at the 49ers facility working with one of the young receivers, Jordan Watkins. Now, Watkins, he went to Ole Miss as well. So he got Dejon Stribling and Jordan Watkins of Ole Miss, and then you've got Mike Evans, Texas A&M, Christian Kirk, Texas A&M. So the 49ers doubling up on some of these schools. Yesterday, we talked to a couple of the 49ers rookies, Carver Willis and Ephesians Prysock, both from the University of Washington. So all of these guys have some links that go back to their colleges. Mike, if you've got any video of Dejon Stribling from yesterday, we can take a look at that as well. But right now, we're going to discuss the end of a 49ers era. Back to this photo right here. You know, I just put this out on X, and I think that there are probably some mixed emotions from 49ers fans, and understandably so. I mean, the ends for each of these players in their times with the 49ers offered differing levels of discontent, right? It wasn't all rosy at the end for Deebo Samuel, who was traded in 2025. Definitely hasn't been rosy at the end for Brandon Aiyuk, who's gone MIA, and there's still a lot of mystery in that situation. And for Jauan Jennings, that it was a rather tortured season in 2025. I think he deserved more money than he had signed for, because the whole Brandon Aiyuk situation blew up, so his role changed. And if the Brandon Aiyuk situation had blown up a year sooner, Jauan Jennings definitely would have been able to sign for more money with the 49ers. And then the 49ers did actually offer him more money, but things got all out of whack, and I think Jauan out-leveraged himself. The 49ers had a ton of injury issues, and he thought that he had a little bit more arm wrestling power than he actually did, and decided to end up betting on himself, and that bet obviously cost him several $1 million at the very least, as now he's signed with the Minnesota Vikings for only up to $13 million, even though the 49ers, I think, got a base salary of 12 or 13 million on the table, with incentives probably expandable up to 17 million or so. He wanted over 20, though. The numbers were too far apart, so obviously the sides didn't see eye to eye, and now he's elsewhere. So all three of these situations ended with various levels of discontent. But it's also important to remember that all three of these situations brought tremendous memories and real highs to the 49ers. Think about Deebo Samuel over there on the left, texting with two phones, it looks like. Deebo Samuel had a historically good 2021 season. In fact, we might have never seen anything like it, what Deebo Samuel was able to do after the catch. He put up historically good yak numbers over the course of his 49ers career, but especially in 2021. The game changed as the 49ers used Deebo from 2019 to 2024. Kyle Shanahan introduced his brand of positionless football to the NFL, and Deebo Samuel was the perfect warrior for that philosophy, because he ran like a power back at over 220 pounds, but he was fast. I mean, he built up the type of momentum that would really scare smaller defensive backs from stepping in front of him. And he had good enough hands, and he ran good enough routes to be able to line up outside, to not only be in the backfield, but he did both, right? He lined up in the backfield and outside. So there was that positionless versatility that allowed Kyle Shanahan to introduce his brand of football to the NFL at a very high level. In 2021, the 49ers had a ton of injuries. Deebo Samuel hit his prime and was absurdly good in so many facets of the game, and helped lead the 49ers all the way to the NFC Championship game in a season where nobody expected them to go that far, given the shorthandedness of the football team. So there are real highs there for Deebo Samuel, especially in that 2021 season. And then nobody should forget how Deebo absolutely annihilated the Philadelphia Eagles in 2023. I mean, that was insane. All the 3 touchdowns that he scored. His speed was on display. It wasn't just a power guy. He ran away from their secondary. Of course, there's Aiyuk. We'll get to him in a second. I want to talk more about Jauan Jennings over here on the right, since he just signed a deal with the Minnesota Vikings. And, I think it's really important to rewind back in time to the setup of the 49ers receiver room, when not only all three of these guys were there. Here, let's get all three of them back on the screen. But when both Aiyuk and Jennings were there, and Aiyuk came up with a contract in 2024, and it was really dramatic. Jauan Jennings got a smaller extension, a 2-year extension that year. I think it was worth about $6 million per year in 2024, because he essentially had only played enough and only caught enough passes to be considered a wide receiver 3 at the time. So he couldn't really sign for much more. The 49ers also drafted Ricky Pearsall in that 2024 offseason. When the Aiyuk situation blew up, Jauan Jennings, this was after 2024, after that next season. And Jauan Jennings also, because Aiyuk had blown up his knee in week 7 of 2024, Jennings had finally gotten an opportunity high volume. Remember the game against the Rams in week 3 of 2024 when he went off and put up Jerry Rice type of numbers. I mean, that was history for Jauan Jennings. Entering 2025, Jennings was on the second year of that smaller 2-year deal that he had signed, but the situation had completely changed, right? You signed a deal as a wide receiver 3 in 2024. You just want a little bit of financial security, but you know that you can't really go for a high ceiling deal given who else is on the roster, given who the 49ers are about to pay in 2024. But once Aiyuk blows up his knee in week 7 of 2024, once Jauan Jennings goes for nearly 1,000 yards, should have had it, but it was an unfair ejection against the Arizona Cardinals, everything changes entering 2025. And he definitely deserved more money entering 2025. Also, the 49ers had a ton of injury issues entering the 2025 season. Remember that Ricky Pearsall was dealing with some stuff entering training camp, but he ended up being really the only healthy wide receiver in that top rotation for the 49ers heading into the season, because Jacob Cowing had a severe hamstring strain. Demarcus Robinson had a 3-game suspension that he was going to have to serve at the start of the season. The 49ers, plus obviously Brandon Aiyuk wasn't available, so the 49ers were in a spot where Jauan Jennings was like, whoa, I'm suddenly a very, very important piece that this football team needs. And he demanded a whole heck of a lot of money, upwards of $20 million. I just think that he out-leveraged himself. I understand why he wanted more money. I think that he deserved more money, but there needed to be a more reasonable common ground found. And the 49ers were willing, with those incentives, to go probably up around $17 million. I think somewhere around a $12 to $13 million base. And that wasn't enough for Jennings. And now Jauan, because he decided to bet on himself, the 49ers ultimately moved on after this season. He wouldn't come down in price even after the season, or not enough in price for the 49ers to consider budging. And instead they went to Dejon Stribling with pick number 33. He's going to slot right into Jauan Jennings' old big slot position. And they also used some of the money that they would have used on Jauan Jennings on both Mike Evans and Christian Kirk. Financially, what the 49ers did made perfect sense. I think from a sentimental standpoint, from, just the standpoint of worth too for Jauan Jennings, asking for more money, wanting more money in 2025 made a lot of sense. But the two sides never found enough common ground to actually make a deal work. And I think that there was a spot, as you can see by the size of the Vikings deal, $8 million expandable to $13 million. There would have been a spot for this to work with the 49ers, but by the time that Jennings found out that his market value wasn't as great as what he had been asking for, the ship had already sailed. The 49ers had already added Mike Evans. They had already added Dejon Stribling, or at least Mike Evans and Christian Kirk, and they're on their way to drafting Dejon Stribling. It is telling that Jauan Jennings did not sign with the Vikings until after the 49ers had gotten done with the draft. I mean, they can't even factor into the compensatory pick process because of this. Any signing that happens after the NFL draft doesn't apply to the compensatory pick formula. So it's just a matter of misaligned asking prices and offers, right, in this case. And I think that if you want to look at it from a value standpoint, the 49ers were definitely in the right. But I don't think it's all that hard to understand where Jauan Jennings was coming from as somebody who had been relatively underpaid, who didn't have that big role until it suddenly unexpectedly opened up in 2024, who wasn't in a very good position to leverage himself in 2025, and then he overextended himself anyway. And now he's part of the Minnesota Vikings, where you've got a few JJs, right? You've got Justin Jefferson. You've got J.J. McCarthy. It's going to be Kyler Murray throwing to Jefferson, Jordan Addison, and Jauan Jennings. Should be a nice receiving room for the Minnesota Vikings. Anyway, speaking of the highs for Jauan Jennings, he threw 2 touchdown passes in massive moments for the 49ers. And it's rather ironic, I guess, that we're talking about his moments as a quarterback, but he was a really good receiver for the 49ers as well. But the touchdown pass in the Super Bowl to Christian McCaffrey against the Chiefs, and then of course the touchdown pass again to Christian McCaffrey in the NFC wildcard game against the Philadelphia Eagles. Both callbacks to Jauan Jennings' time as a star quarterback in the state of Tennessee. Recruited as a quarterback to the University of Tennessee, switched to wide receiver there, played with so much passion, got under opponents' skin. I always call it Tyler Durden mode for Jauan Jennings. Tyler Durden in Fight Club, that is the Brad Pitt character, when he gets the crap beaten out of him by Lou, the bar owner, and he's just yelling, "You don't know where I've been, Lou." I always felt that Jauan Jennings had that kind of rallying effect. He would get guys to just lose their cool around him and draw a flag, and it would benefit the 49ers. And everybody hated playing against Jauan Jennings, but you loved having him on your team. The 49ers are going to get the opposite side of that coin this next year because they host the Minnesota Vikings. They're going to host Jauan Jennings and the Vikings in 2026, and I'm sure they're not going to enjoy playing against him. And it's just unfortunate that the business side of this didn't align, and maybe emotions got involved. They probably did, and Jauan Jennings is going to be wearing that Minnesota Vikings purple when they come to Levi Stadium this year. But between the 2 touchdown passes, the constant irritation of opponents, the excellent downfield blocking, you could also just look at some of the catches he made over the middle of the field. He made some tough catches. I'll always remember when Jennings tied the game against the Rams in 2021 in Week 18. Garoppolo over the middle to Jennings. It wasn't a hard catch. He was wide open, but still, massive moment. And then he rolled the ball like a bowling ball in his celebration. And then the 49ers went into overtime, beat the Rams. That was a must-win game. They punched their ticket into the playoffs. Jennings has made so many big catches. His first touchdown came in 2021, early that year, Week 2 against the Philadelphia Eagles. George Kittle remembered to save the football for Jauan Jennings. He still has that ball, and it was a good half decade. Somebody who was cut. He was cut in 2020 from the roster, had to be on the practice squad for that first season, and then made his debut in 2021. Gave the 49ers a lot of memories, a lot of good attitude for San Francisco, and now is off to the Minnesota Vikings. It is what it is. I think that 49ers fans can't really be that upset at Jauan Jennings. I don't think you can be that upset at Deebo Samuel. I think that there's a lot of anger for the guy in the middle, for Brandon Aiyuk. Because neither Deebo nor Jauan abandoned the football team, and the same cannot be said for Brandon Aiyuk. But regardless, that all three, it was an era to remember. With Aiyuk, you had a historically good 2023 season. He averaged 18.1 yards per catch. And, that helmet catch against the Lions, first of all, in the NFC Championship game, coming out of halftime off of Kindle Vildor's helmet, that set up a Brandon Aiyuk touchdown on 3rd down. That was something else, one of the great comebacks that we've ever seen in NFL history, as the 49ers punched their ticket to the Super Bowl. So, Aiyuk played a lot of good football for San Francisco, which is why he earned a contract extension worth $30 million annually. But now the 49ers have turned the page, and it's this man right here. It's Mike Evans who's going to be leading the charge for San Francisco moving forward. The veteran, with Dejon Stribling, with Christian Kirk, with Ricky Pearsall, with Jacob Cowing, Jordan Watkins. Let's look at the veteran at work.
The time, boy! Let's go.
And Brock Purdy throws a really nice deep ball, so I think that there is some real opportunity for Mike Evans to do some great work downfield for the 49ers. Dejon Stribling spoke to the media yesterday, and we're going to see him out on the practice field for the first time today here in Santa Clara. This is Dejon on Mike Evans. Video credit goes to Matt Lively of CBS Bay Area.
Have Mike Evans reach out.
It was nice, looked up to him a lot growing up, so it's kind of nice that I'm sharing a room with him. The opportunity to learn from him will be very special.
Are there any parts of your game that you can see in his game and that you want to learn specifically?
Yeah, just, being that bigger body receiver, contested catches, releases off the line. So just very excited to be able to learn from him in this process.
So let's take a quick look at the 49ers receiver room as far as how it's going to work on the depth chart. Mike asked me a good question. Do the 49ers have room for both Watkins and Cowing? Well, They could carry probably up to 7 receivers. I would expect 6 to be a more realistic number. Injuries, though, do happen. Right now, they're topped out at 6 in this projection. And I currently I have Jacob Cowing on the outside looking in as of right now. I'm probably going to make some adjustments here. But obviously Mike Evans, assuming everybody's healthy. Obviously Ricky Pearsall makes the football team. Obviously Dejon Stribling makes the football team. I would assume that Christian Kirk makes the team as well. There's 4. Then, Watkins and Cowing are the 2 youngsters that the people seem to be paying the closest attention to. In a perfect world, they both have good training camps and they both make this football team, and that is 5 and 6. And then you wonder, okay, well, if they're really good this training camp and they make this team, does Demarcus Robinson get traded? Does Demarcus Robinson get cut? Do they carry a 7th receiver? Is Demarcus there? I think for a team with win now aspirations, it'd be very hard to get rid of Demarcus Robinson, who could play all 3 of the positions, including the X. So you remember him playing the X against Philadelphia in the playoffs last year. I mean, he's a very valuable high floor kind of guy. This is unfortunate, but in all likelihood, you're not going to have a fully healthy wide receiver room throughout the month of July and then August and entering the cut down. Last year, there was like 4 or 5 guys hurt, and you're going to be, just scrounging for whatever you can get. So this is a problem that I think a logjam that you have on paper in May, but it's not one that you're going to have in actuality come August and September when the 49ers need to make this cut down. So it's the more the merrier. The more bodies, the merrier. And you know what? I could even right now ceremonially move Jacob Cowing into the left side here onto the 53-man projection. Of course, I'm going to have to make some adjustments elsewhere because I think I have 54 on the roster now, but that's something I was planning to do anyway. Look, yeah, we're actually at exactly 53. No, we're at 54. I just don't have this counted right now. Got to fix the formula. So we're at 54 right now. It's going to be a log jam. That's a good thing for the 49ers. You want to be as deep as possible, and you want to have to make as many tough decisions as possible once it comes time to cut down the roster. But that is the new look 49ers wide receiver room. Mike Evans, Dejon Stribling in, Jennings, Aiyuk out, alongside Deebo Samuel, of course, who is a free agent right now, was with the Washington Commanders this past year. But this photo will never get one like this again. The end of an era. The 49ers moving on to a new set of wide receivers. And they've got a future Hall of Famer leading the room now in Mike Evans. So I'm sure that is very, very exciting for San Francisco. All right, today we're headed out to practice at rookie minicamp. Can't wait to check it out. 49ers going to take the field with the young guys, and we'll see Curtis Rourke, second-year quarterback. He's still eligible out on the practice field for San Francisco, throwing to Dejon Stribling and players like that. So I'm going to be out at the helmet after practice, going to give you guys a good update. Hope you can tune in. Hit that subscribe button, hit that like button, comment, do whatever you need to, because we will see you very, very soon. Oh, and, maybe the 49ers, maybe they've got an option at wide receiver or at running back as an offensive weapon with Grayson Halton, their new defensive tackle. How about you take a look at this?
I was probably about 6'2", 250.
Trucking some kids in high school.
Oh, yeah. Lowering that shoulder. Once I get to that sideline, I'm hashes, I'm gone. I was fast. But I can run through the hole, lower my shoulder if I need to, so.
There you go. Grayson Halton, ready for duty. Like if you want to see him get a carry or a catch.